This is the new Polestar 2, and there is a lot going on with this car. We're going to break it all down for you here on the DM Test Drive. An entirely new car from an entirely new brand. It's sort of a performance electric brand shared with Volvo, but really it's a lot of Chinese, and there's a lot of new stuff going on with this car. So let's start right along with the back. Look at this very cool electric light bar kind of going across, making a cool design. This car definitely looks like a sedan, but technically it's do you want to call it a hatchback? Do you want to call it a fastback, liftback, whatever you want to call it? It doesn't have a traditional sedan trunk setup. This is kind of a hatchbacky cargo area. Got some fun little dividers. Definitely appreciate those. Good place to latch down your groceries when you're taking off with this 400 horsepower and obscene amount of electric torque. A little bit of underfloor storage as well. Some nice nets. And if you fold these seats down, you do get a decent amount of hatchbacky style room. Pretty flat load surface. You can actually get quite a bit in here. Power this back down. Get into the back seat. Not a fan of this gray material, mostly because of the color. I just don't really like gray though. That's maybe a bit personal. Never liked it in just about any of the cars. I think the only car that we've had that was gray that I didn't mind was a Subaru Outback Onyx Edition. Either way, this is a plenty fine place to be. 5'10" individual. I've got headroom, got knee room, and some places to put my arms. One thing we did notice though, this pillar is actually very close to my head. So if I kind of lean to the side, my head hits it. It sort of comes in more so than a lot of cars. At the end of the day, this is not a huge vehicle. It's not cramped, but it's not spacious either, and we'll see a lot more of that when we get up to the front. Obviously, this big glass panoramic roof deal, not super tinted. It's not quite as tinted as the Tesla roof. Speaking of which, if you do want to see this compared to our long-term Tesla Model Y, check the links in the description. We did shoot a comparison video between those two. We've also got videos on the Harman Kardon audio system and a highway range test where this Polestar 2 did very, very well. It actually beat its EPA range number, even at 70 miles per hour. I also want to give a quick shout out to Grizzly for providing charging for all of our electric vehicles. If you need an electric charger for your home EV, whether it's just a plug-in hybrid or a full electric vehicle like this, Grizzly offers all sorts of options. They're well built, they're well priced. Check them out, link is in the description. Before we get in the front seat, let's take another quick look up at the front of this car. Interestingly, this is a real grille. So there's actually a radiator behind there. I assume to cool the batteries as well as maybe some of the HVAC equipment. But a lot of electric vehicles don't have a traditional grille because they don't need one, but the Polestar 2 does, and it is functional. Let's also pop open the frunk, if you want to call it that. You can call it a hood, you can call it a frunk, whatever you want. It does offer a small bit of storage. You can see Polestar is kind of just using it for a place to put the charger, which is probably what I would use it for as well, but you could put maybe a pair of shoes or something in there as well if you wanted. It is carpeted. Up into the front, you can see some interesting material choices. Another thing Nathan pointed out is they've got these small strips of kind of an Alcantara-y fabric that are found nowhere else in the seats, nowhere else in the car, but just right here. It's strange that they even bothered to make and design that material at all, if they're just going to use it in such a limited spot. So when you get in and the key's in your pocket, the car kind of comes to life. There's no on button, nothing like that. You're kind of in a standby-ish mode now. You can see this infotainment system. Actually, let's turn down the fan here. This infotainment system is running on what's called Android Automotive. Not Android Auto, Android Automotive. A lot of it works well. Some of it is confusing. There's certainly a learning curve, but when you get yourself logged in to your Google account, you can get things like this awesome Google Maps. This is straight up Google Maps application, and check this out, really cool. Let's do, if I wanted to navigate, let's say to this restaurant that I was going to go to today. Actually, let's go back. Before even hitting navigation, it tells me right here, I would be at 70% battery if I were to leave now and head right to that destination. It'd take me 50 minutes. I can click on it, and again, it shows me.
Head south on Airport Industrial Drive toward Parkwood Avenue.
Yeah, I know. It tells me the charge for all those different destinations. I think that's really cool. I can hit this. It'll show me results for charging stations near me. And those look like those are non-restricted charging stations, so that's good. Fast. It even says slow right here for a charger that's not a fast charger. So definitely a cool setup there, and much better than a lot of other EVs integrations. There's so much we could talk about with this infotainment system, but just take my word for it. It has a learning curve. It has some quirks. Overall, I don't mind it. I like how quickly it responds and refreshes. But if you do want to see a little bit more on it, check the link in the description for our sound system test. We go through it a little bit more regarding audio controls, that sort of deal. Like I said earlier, a bit cramped up here. No good areas for practical storage. There's no sunglasses holder. You've got this very small center console with a cup holder in there, a little bit of a storage area, second cup holder. No pass-through, just some small storage areas there and some small storage areas in the door. So if you were taking a road trip with 2 passengers, or a driver and a passenger, it's going to be tough to find a place to put 2 pairs of sunglasses, 2 water bottles, 2 phones, maybe a book, maybe some snacks. It's going to fill up really quickly in here. The glove box is decent size, but I feel like a glove box shouldn't be a primary storage place. It should be more of like a long-term storage option. The driving experience is where the Polestar comes to life, where it shines. A lot of the interior design and layout and infotainment, all those kind of quirks are sort of take it or leave it. Some people won't mind them at all. Some people will be bothered by their unconventionalness. But getting behind the wheel, it's very difficult to argue that the Polestar 2 is nice to drive. It's remarkably quiet, as we'll see once we get up to highway speeds and kind of just faster road speeds. They did a really good job with throttle progression. If you give it a little bit of gas, it just kind of takes off nice and smooth. If you give it a lot of throttle, then it really rips. Like if I go full right here, it pushes me back and really gets going. It is a heavy car. This thing's coming in around 4,700 pounds, so about 800 pounds more than our SUV, if you want to call it, Model Y standard range. It obviously has a bigger battery, extra drive motor, but it's still even heavier than a long-range Model Y. Model Y only is 4,300 pounds, I think. So obviously much heavier than a comparable Model 3. But a lot of that weight goes into sound deadening and overall making this a good car to drive. Interestingly, no drive modes in the Polestar 2. If we go here, we have steering feel, light, standard, and firm. I like a really light steering, so I've had it on light. You can turn ESC, the electronic stability control, into sport mode, but I will say it doesn't do much. It definitely doesn't let you whip the car around by any means. One pedal driving, you can have off, low, or standard. I highly recommend standard. And you can turn creep on or off, so it'll kind of creep forward like a conventional gasoline car at a stop sign. I like the simplicity of the gauge cluster. You get your digital speed, you got kind of an indicator of how much power you're doing or how much regen you're getting. You got your range and percentage right there on the side. Or sorry, you have your range in miles down low and then your charge left on the side and percentage. Speed limit indicator and drive indicator. It's all just, it's straightforward and it works. That part does not have a learning curve. But let's get on it a bit here. Turn ESC into sport mode. Kind of a strange whistling sound going on. That's new. Definitely some understeer near the limit, but satisfying to rotate right under the limit. The ride is not quite as good as the Mach-E, but it's definitely better than the Teslas. It's quieter in here than the Teslas too. It's a very calculated driving experience. It doesn't have the fun aspect of something like the Mach-E, where it feels a tad unpredictable, and it doesn't feel as RC car-like and go-kart snappy as a Tesla. It feels calculated. It feels like, okay, we designed this car to have this level of fun, and you can achieve that level and no more. The rear end doesn't really ever kick itself out. But man, that power doesn't get old. I'm not a big stickler for interior materials, but I do have to admit there are some oddities in here. There's very much a plasticness to a lot of it. I know a lot of it's supposed to be environmentally friendly and reusable or whatever, but it doesn't inspire a nice cabin the way other cars at this price point do. In fact, I think the Mach-E has a nicer cabin. You'll see I keep going back to the Mach-E because overall, I think it's a better electric car option. Nice turn signal, buddy. And I know that this isn't a Volvo at the end of the day, but you got to consider that Volvo's pushing themselves toward EVs as well, and I would much rather be in the interior of an S60 than this car. Let's hustle it around this on-ramp a bit. That's pretty good. 62 coming out of there, 63. Not bad. You do have a very Volvo-esque adaptive cruise control and pilot assist. I'll be quiet for a minute here. You can hear what it sounds like at 70. I just realized that whistling sound is coming from my camera that's up on the roof, so typically you don't hear that. It's a bit quieter in here. Let's turn on the pilot assist and see how it takes us around this corner. And it is going off the road. So not quite as good as what you get from Hyundai, Kia, Tesla, Ford, a lot of those other brands, but it's something. Not my favorite system, that's for sure. I like driving the Polestar too, I really do. I couldn't see myself buying one. It just, between the price and the lack of playfulness in the driving experience and some of the weirdness, I kind of like the infotainment system. It's different, but I like different. I could see for a lot of people who are more used to a conventional car really not caring for it. I'm going to be interested to hear what the Topher thinks about it after his time with it. It'd be hard for me to justify paying the price I would be paying for this car and not get much interior storage space for it. This is not a super practical 3 or 4 type person car. I know the Model Y has shortfalls compared to this. I know it doesn't ride as well. It's louder. It's a little bit more questionable reliability, I suppose, although Polestar doesn't really have a reputation for itself yet either. But you just get a lot more for the money. You get more fun performance, you get more space, you get more efficiency. You don't necessarily get more range, but you get more efficiency. So the Polestar is a cool and nice and good car for the right sort of buyer, and it does drive well. I like driving it, but I'm not inspired to go out and buy one. The cool thing is, though, is this is just the start of a brand, and they can build on things. They can make improvements, changes, quirks, and come out with entirely new models that may just fit the bill. There's a lot of EVs coming out right now, and with Hyundai's Ioniq 5 coming, Kia stuff, there are other things I would wait to put my money on. Right. So if you want to see more on the Polestar 2, like I said, we've got all sorts of videos. Go ahead and check those out. Links will be in the description. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.